Imagine this for a moment. You install wooden doors, roofs, decks, or furniture, and within just 5 years, the wood begins to crack, swell, grow fungus, and rot from the inside out. Yet in Scandinavia, wooden churches, Viking ships, and homes built 200, 300, even 500 years ago are still standing strong today. And that shocking contrast forces one unavoidable question: why does Scandinavian wood survive for centuries while yours dies in just a few years? The answer isn't magic, and it isn't modern chemicals. It's a forgotten understanding of nature. Scandinavian trees grow extremely slowly in harsh, cold climates with short summers and long winters, which makes their wood incredibly dense, tight-grained, and resistant to moisture penetration, while modern commercial wood is fast-grown, rushed to maturity, full of air pockets, and therefore an easy target for fungi and bacteria. These trees are traditionally cut in the coldest months, when sap flow is at its lowest, meaning the wood contains fewer sugars and less internal moisture, exactly the things that rot feeds on. Whereas most modern wood is cut whenever it's convenient, often when it's already saturated with moisture. But the real secret lies in seasoning. Scandinavian wood is air-dried slowly over many years, protected from direct ground contact, wind and rain, allowing its internal structure to stabilize naturally, while today's industry force-dries wood in kilns to save time and money, creating internal stress that makes it look dry on the outside but weak and vulnerable inside. Then comes treatment, where modern society makes its biggest mistake. Scandinavians traditionally use natural tar, pine oil, linseed oil, and resins that soak into the wood, letting it breathe while repelling water, whereas modern paints and plastic sealants trap moisture inside, turning wood into a sealed coffin where rot grows silently until it's too late. Add to this smart design, keeping wood raised off the ground, ensuring airflow, preventing standing water, and a culture of regular maintenance, not neglect, and suddenly the mystery disappears. This isn't just a story about wood, it's a warning about our modern obsession with speed, cheapness, and disposability. When we fight nature, cut corners, and rush processes that were meant to take time, materials die young. But when we respect natural laws, work with patience, and design intelligently, the same materials can outlive generations. So the next time your wood fails in 5 years, while Scandinavian wood lasts for centuries, don't blame bad luck or poor quality. The real problem is how we think, how we build, and how little patience we're willing to give to things that were never meant to be rushed. And this lesson goes even deeper because Scandinavian builders never treated wood as a disposable material meant to be replaced every decade. They treated it as a living resource that deserved respect, even after the tree was cut, which is why joints were designed to shed water naturally, edges were beveled so rain could never sit and soak in, roofs were extended to protect walls, and structures were built to work with wind, snow, and temperature changes instead of fighting them. Modern construction, by contrast, traps wood inside concrete, presses it against damp soil, hides it behind airtight walls, and then acts surprised when it rots, even though moisture has nowhere to escape. Scandinavian wood survived because it was allowed to breathe, dry, move, and age naturally, while today's wood is suffocated, stressed, and forced to perform in environments it was never designed for. Even maintenance tells the same story. Instead of waiting for failure, they re-oiled, retarred, and inspected wood regularly, understanding that small care prevents massive decay, whereas today we ignore wood completely until it collapses and then blame the material instead of our neglect. This is why centuries-old Scandinavian structures don't just survive, they grow stronger with time, while modern wood weakens year after year, silently rotting beneath shiny paint and perfect finishes. In the end, the truth is uncomfortable but clear. Scandinavian wood didn't last longer because it was better wood. It lasted longer because it was grown slowly, cut wisely, dried patiently, treated naturally, designed intelligently, and maintained respectfully. Your wood doesn't die in 5 years because wood is weak. It dies because modern systems are rushed, careless, and disconnected from nature. And once you understand this, you realize this isn't only about wood at all. It's about how everything we rush, cheapen, and ignore today is quietly decaying far faster than it ever should. And once you truly grasp this, the illusion of modern superiority completely collapses, because Scandinavians were not using advanced machines, toxic preservatives, or futuristic coatings. They were using patience, observation, and respect for natural cycles, something our age has almost entirely forgotten. They understood that wood is not dead material like plastic or steel. It expands, contracts, absorbs, releases, and reacts to its environment. So every decision, from forest to finished structure, was made to reduce stress on the wood rather than increase it. They selected heartwood over sapwood because heartwood naturally resists decay. They oriented planks so rainwater would always run off instead of pool. And they avoided flat surfaces where moisture could sit and quietly begin its attack. Meanwhile, modern construction often ignores grain direction, ignores drainage, ignores airflow, and then tries to fix the problem afterward with chemicals, sealants, and marketing promises that claim protection for 20 or 30 years, but fail in a fraction of that time. Even climate plays a role we refuse to acknowledge. Scandinavian buildings are designed assuming constant moisture, freeze-thaw cycles, and extreme conditions, so they are overbuilt with margins of safety, while modern buildings are engineered to minimum standards, optimized for cost, not longevity. And here's the most uncomfortable truth of all. Rot doesn't happen suddenly. It starts invisibly, silently, years before you notice it. And Scandinavian methods were designed to make rot impossible to hide, allowing wood to dry quickly and reveal problems early, whereas modern methods hide everything behind paint, panels, and insulation until failure becomes catastrophic. This is why centuries-old Scandinavian wood still smells alive, still holds nails, still carries weight, while modern wood crumbles, splinters, and turns to dust in your hands. The difference is not technology, it is philosophy. One culture built for descendants they would never meet, the other builds for resale value, warranties, and short-term profit. And that is why Scandinavian wood endures storms, centuries, and time itself, while modern wood barely survives a decade, because nothing rushed, suffocated, and disconnected from nature was ever meant to last. And when you zoom out even further, you realize that Scandinavian wood longevity is the result of an entire ecosystem of decisions working together, not a single trick that can be copied overnight, because they understood forests as long-term investments rather than raw material factories. Trees were not harvested the moment they reached a sellable size. They were allowed to mature fully, sometimes for generations, producing tighter grain, higher resin content, and natural defenses that modern fast forestry simply cannot replicate. Forest management itself was slower, selective, and respectful, ensuring that each tree removed strengthened the forest instead of exhausting it, while modern clear-cutting prioritizes volume over vitality, producing weaker wood that already carries stress before it ever becomes a plank. Even transportation mattered. Logs were often moved in winter over snow, reducing damage and microbial exposure, whereas modern logistics expose a wood to heat, humidity, and contamination long before construction begins. And then there is the psychological difference that modern society refuses to confront. Scandinavians accepted weathering as beauty, not failure. Silvered wood, darkened tarred surfaces, and visible aging were signs of life and endurance, not defects to be hidden. While modern culture chases permanent newness, repainting, sealing, and covering wood until it suffocates under layers meant to preserve appearance rather than health. This obsession with looking new is exactly what kills wood the fastest, because decay thrives where moisture is trapped and inspection is impossible. Scandinavian builders left wood visible, honest, and exposed enough to tell the truth about its condition, allowing intervention before destruction, while modern buildings hide decay until replacement is the only option. And here's the final irony that few people want to admit. Scandinavian wood construction was cheaper in the long run, not more expensive, because rebuilding every 5 to 10 years costs far more than building once with patience and care. What we call old-fashioned was actually more advanced in its understanding of materials, climate, and than most modern practices today. So when your wood rots in 5 years and theirs survives for centuries, it isn't because nature favored them, it's because they listened to nature, while we try to dominate it, rush it, and monetize it. And until that mindset changes, no new coating, no chemical treatment, no engineered product will ever truly solve the problem, because durability is not something you buy at the end of a process. It is something you build into every step from seed to structure, with patience, humility, and the willingness to think in centuries instead of seasons. And that is why copying only the surface details will never work, because you cannot buy centuries of patience in a hardware store. You can import Scandinavian timber, apply the same oils, even mimic the same designs, but if the mindset behind it remains rushed and profit-driven, the results will still fail. Scandinavian builders understood something deeply uncomfortable for the modern world. Longevity requires restraint. It requires saying no to speed, no to shortcuts, no to squeezing every last drop of profit out of a material before it has even stabilized. They accepted that some things simply take time, and that time itself is not waste, it is protection. Wood that dries slowly becomes stable. Wood that ages naturally becomes resilient. Wood that is respected becomes reliable. Modern systems, however, are built on turnover, not endurance. Houses are designed to last until the next owner, products until the next upgrade, materials until the warranty expires. In that system, wood is not allowed to succeed. It is forced into conditions that guarantee failure, then blamed for that failure. And here is the final truth that ties everything together. Scandinavian wood did not resist rot because rot was fought. It resisted rot because rot was prevented. Moisture had escape routes. Air was always moving. Water was guided away, and decay was never allowed to begin. Modern construction reacts instead of prevents, sealing problems inside walls and hoping chemistry will fix what design ignored. That is why old Scandinavian wood structures don't feel fragile. They feel calm, balanced, and alive, while modern wooden structures feel tense, stressed, and temporary from the moment they are built. So if there is one lesson hidden inside centuries of surviving Scandinavian wood, it is this: durability is not an upgrade, it is a discipline. And until we relearn that discipline, until we stop rushing what nature designed to be slow, our wood will keep dying young, not because it is weak, but because we never gave it a chance to live. And when you really let that sink in, the story stops being about Scandinavia at all and starts becoming a mirror held up to our own choices, because the same mindset that kills wood in 5 years is the mindset that shortens the life of everything we build today. Scandinavian builders didn't ask, how fast can we finish, or how cheap can we make it? They asked, how will this behave after rain, after snow, after 50 winters, after my grandchildren are gone? That single shift in thinking changes everything. It changes how wood is joined, how roofs are angled, how walls are protected, and how maintenance is planned long before the first plank is laid. Modern construction, on the other hand, treats time as the enemy, every extra day as a cost, every slow process a problem, every natural limitation something to be engineered around instead of respected. And so we end up with buildings that look perfect on day one but begin failing almost immediately because they were never designed to age, only to sell. Scandinavian wood survives because aging was part of the design, not an afterthought. It was expected to darken, to dry further, to move slightly, to tell the story of seasons passing, and structures were built to allow that story to unfold without turning into decay. Today we design for stillness, rigidity, and appearance, then panic when wood behaves like wood. And that is the final contradiction. The more we try to control natural materials, the faster they rebel, but the more we work with their nature, the longer they serve us. This is why centuries-old Scandinavian wood doesn't feel outdated, it feels timeless, because it was built with an understanding that trends expire, but natural laws do not. And until we relearn that lesson, until we stop treating longevity as an accident instead of an intention, we will keep asking the same question again and again. Why does their wood last centuries while ours dies in 5 years? Without wanting to hear the answer that has been quietly standing in front of us all along.